I did something, or actually, I guess you could say I didn't do something for the first time in many years yesterday. So yesterday was American Thanksgiving, and every Thursday for the past, I don't know, 7 years or so, um, I've done my Beyond Limits session. I get up every morning and every Thursday and do an actual matrix energetic session, and for everybody that's on my email list. And I've been doing it every day. I think I missed one day, maybe two, in the last 7 or more years. And then I woke up this morning and I realized, oh my goodness, I didn't do it yesterday. And so that's different. Um, that's different, huh? And so what I'm doing today is what I've started doing the last few months is every Friday I do a Matrix Energetics and Beyond session, and I put it on a video. So this is your session for Friday, and when I back in 2009, I was in San Diego, and I had one of my teachers, Kim Burnham, PhD in integrative medicine, and I'd seen many miracles with her work, and she taught me a lot of the medical intuitive work from Sharon Giammatteo, one of my teachers for 10 years. And she was coming to our house in San Diego and living with us every 3 months. And she would stay with us for 2 weeks and then work in my clinic. And we would line up all of our clients that wanted to see her. And she would do hours of sessions on them and on me and Jen. And we did some amazing stuff for ourselves and for our friends and our family and our clients. And she kept telling me to take Matrix Energetics. And she said, just take it because it's mind-blowing fun. And she always had a little twinkle in her eye. And, she really studied the science of stuff. And she would come and we'd wake up in the morning, and first thing up in the morning, we'd be making breakfast and she'd be talking about the research, the actual medical and scientific research about stuff and about healing and about physics and all sorts of cool stuff. And then we would go to the clinic all day, and we had a big room. We had private rooms too, but we had a big room with 4 tables and 4 therapists working. And so one of the tables was for Kim Burnham that day. And we would see the miracles, and we had really good miracles, and she had these amazing miracles. There was a lady that hadn't moved her arm for 40 years because of polio. She got the polio from the vaccine. And if you study that information, you'll see that that's something that happens. It's happening in India right now, and it's really devastating. But anyway, she couldn't use her arms from when she was about, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old or some early age, and from the vaccine. And here she was in her 50s, and she couldn't move her arms. And after a week of working with Kim, I saw her laying on her side, and she moved her arm up to her face. And I was like, wow. But all I saw Kim doing was sitting by her side and seeming to do nothing, and just kind of chit-chatting with her and holding her arm. And I'm like, what is she doing? I mean, this Matrix Energetics, I know she's using this integrative manual therapy, the medical intuitive work that I was trained in, but it just seemed so easy. And so then I had a little girl at the time that she was about 12, I think, and she was going blind. She couldn't read text messages or print that was about this big. And we had a big newsletter, and with some of the big print, she had a real hard time reading this. And so I was working with her, and I really wanted to help her, and we were like making little progress. But I was scheduled to take my first Matrix Energetics class in San Diego at the Hotel del Coronado, beautiful old 300-year-old hotel. And Kim was going to take it, and Kim always brought us gifts. Whenever she came to visit, she brought us a gift. And that trip, she brought me this guy, Yoda. Kind of cool, huh? Anyway, so she brought me Yoda. And I remember at lunch, we were eating lunch in the waiting room, and I was seeing these miracles, and I said, Kim, when am I going to get to do what you're doing? And she looked at me and she said, Ralph, you're already doing it. You just don't know it yet. And I was like, oh God, what a Yoda thing to say. And I had, there was only one Matrix book at the time. It was this book, Matrix Energetics by Richard Bartlett. And I bought it in Vancouver when we were on vacation once, Vancouver, British Columbia, and it was in Banyan Books. And I looked up, and it was the actually no, that book I asked about, I think. But I also bought the CD and DVD program. It was a big orange thing. And when I walked in Banyan Books, I looked up, and there it was. That's all I saw. And I was like, wow, I guess that's what I'm supposed to get. And I got this. I don't know the exact timeline of all this, but I remember this book. And I read that book at Java Jones in Pacific Beach in San Diego. And I believed it. I was like, wow, the stuff in this book is true. I know this is true. It's like there was these miracles, and there was these stories, and there was these healings, and there was all this drama of what happened to Richard Bartlett as this came into his world. And I thought, this is true. I'm going to do this. And so I went back to the clinic, and I tried to do what was in the book. And it just made my therapy a little bit better. I was like, God, it's just, I know this is true, but how do you do it? And Kim had given me a bunch of MP3s of interviews of Richard Bartlett and Mark Dunn and Justice Bartlett, of them talking about quantum physics and healing and this matrix energetics and stories of healing. And I was like, oh yeah, this is so cool. And I kept trying to do it, and I couldn't do it. And so then I took the class at the Hotel del Coronado. It was amazing. Kim was there. My wife was there. We were all taking the class. I think there was one other therapist that was working for me at the time that was there. And my other couple of therapists hadn't taken the class yet. And so they were talking about quantum physics and healing and all these stories and how to do this thing. And there was about probably 500 people in the room. And so then at the first time to try it, I think it was the afternoon of the first day, I got up, and Jen was my subject, and Kim Burnham was standing behind Jen. And I said, okay, well, they said to do this and do this and do this. And Jen, her eyes got really wide, and she started to fall back. That happens in some of the matrix classes. She started to fall back, and some people would fall back but then like catch themselves, but she just kept her feet planted, and she fell all the way back into Kim's arms. And I said, no way. And she said, way. And I was like, wow, that was easy. And so then the rest of the day I spent doing different versions of this. And some people fell down, some didn't have a big experience, some had little experiences. And all I was doing was doing this and this. So I was scheduled for 3 days in class, and then there was a day off, and then there was another, the advanced version, the magic class was 2 days after this 1 day off. But I wasn't scheduled. I thought, no, I got to get back to the clinic. I'm busy. So I went back to the clinic, and I was working on my office manager, and I said, let me, it was just in between clients, and I had all of like 30 seconds. So let me work on you. So she was sitting there, and I said, okay, Susan, let me put a hand here, hand here. And I said, what did you notice? And she said, you just took all the sorrow out of my heart. And I'm like, what? I didn't do anything. I did this thing. And so I worked on my, the client that had the little girl with the had been having a blindness issue. And I worked on her mom, and she had a big experience. And long story short, for the little girl, she went to where she could start reading regular text messages on her phone. And so it got kind of weird. And I even put a piece of paper between her like this when she was laying down, because one eye was actually a prosthetic eye. And I had her hold a tennis ball. I don't even know what possessed me to think of this, and throw it back and forth so that she couldn't see the other side of the paper, and she was catching it. And I thought, okay, this is getting really weird, really cool. And so this is how life was going. And then so Jen and my wife and Kim Burnham and my office manager all conspired and said, we have to get Ralph back to the next class. It's like another day later. So let's move his schedule around, change things. We'll put some on Kim's schedule. We'll move people. We'll change it, and let's get Ralph back in there on Wednesday and Thursday for the class. So I went back in, and took more of the class. And Kim was already back at work. She had taken the class numerous times. Jen was back at work, and it was just amazing. And some crazy stuff was happening. This one story actually happened another class or two later. It's just a crazy story, but this is what life was starting to do for me. At the time, I was in this another class of matrix energetics a few months later, I guess the next year, and the big Hotel Del Coronado ballroom area, and not the ballroom, but this big giant meeting room. And my friend Alan was a chiropractor, and he was very deep in the class. So way in the class, I was on the edge of the class, and it was time for a break, time to go to the bathroom. So I saw him there, and I thought, oh, I haven't seen Alan yet this trip, but I've got to go to the bathroom. I'm just going to go. And he was sitting there talking to somebody in the big room. So I ran out the door, ran down the stairs, ran into the bathroom. There was a line of guys standing there to pee. And then the door to the stall opens, and Alan walked out. And I'm like, that's weird. He was downstairs. He was upstairs in that room, buried deep in a bunch of people, and he just walked out of the stall. I'm like, that's just weird. So that's going along. And then I'm back to work on Friday, and I have a client, Kim's working on somebody, and I'm over by her table sitting there just waiting because I have a new client who's waiting and doing her paperwork. At the time we took insurance, and she was filling out her paperwork, and she was late. And so I was like hanging out, and Kim said something. She goes, you can always go in the room and set it up so that it's already done. And I'm like, oh yeah, they showed me how to do that in the magic class. So I went in there and did my thing, magic circle, brought all the healing people, all the energies, all this stuff, did everything that they told me to do to set the space up so that it was already done. And I got my indicator that, oh yeah, that's done. So Wanda walks in, my new client, and she goes, yeah, you saw me years ago, but didn't really help much, but I had this intuition that I was supposed to come see you. So here I am. And so I started talking to her, and she was saying she had anxiety, lifelong anxiety, depression. She had environmental sensitivities that were keeping her like limited in life. And it was that bad time of year. So she had lots of sensitivities and allergies going on. She couldn't carry a purse on her shoulder. She had chronic pain. And so I said, okay, well, hang on. So I didn't tell her anything else. I said, I'm going to stand up. And I hadn't done an evaluation or anything. I put one hand here, one hand here. It actually took less than that time. And by the way, I'm doing sessions for you right now. And she turned to me and she said, what are you doing? And I said something about, energy or quantum physics or something. And then she spent the rest, I got my indicator that it was all done. That, oh my goodness, this session is done. It's like 2 seconds into the session. And she started to roll, she started to writhe, like she's moving, like dancing or something. And she's looking at me, there's this look on her face like, what is this? And then she spent the rest of the hour rolling around on the floor, standing up and then laying back on the floor. I tried to get her to go on the treatment table, and then she was back on the floor. She looked like she was in pain, and then she looked like she was in ecstasy. And then she did this Qigong move that to this day I still can't do as good as she did that day. And she doesn't do Qigong. So she went through this whole hour, and I thought I better at least look like I'm doing something. So I put my hands close to her and followed her around. And then the hour was getting to an end, and she was like, wow, that was incredible. What was that? And I said something about quantum physics or energy or something. And I just said, notice what you notice what's different. And she left. And we had her scheduled for 6 sessions. That's how it was back in those days. There was, the doctor had said, come in for 6 sessions. So she came back, and each time was a different version of that. Just me kind of like hanging out with her and doing this thing. And then she would have a different version of laying on the floor. One time she got really mad at me, but then by the end of the session, thank God, in the session she was back to being good with everything. And then 6 sessions were done, and she was gone. And we were used to seeing people for periods of time. With this medical intuitive work, we saw them for hours and hours and days, and we could really solve a lot of things if we did that. But she was gone. So I emailed her about 6 months later and said, hey, how's it going? Do you need more sessions? How are you doing? And she said, you don't understand. I knew the instant my anxiety and depression went away. And she told me she got rid of her, she got a backpack and she went to Europe and hiked around and did all sorts of stuff. And then after that, I was getting emails from her that she was in Costa Rica on zip lines, and she started painting more. And then we actually bought we bought some of her paintings, and she did a real special painting for our family, and she was in art galleries, and everything just exploded in really cool ways for her. And so that was my like introduction to matrix energetics. And it was way simpler than I had ever imagined. But it wasn't something I could figure out with my mind or get from just following instructions in a book. Yet the way to do this was all encoded in that. And so when you interact with this work, the videos that I do, what you might want to do is notice what you notice, which is a big thing, right? A lot of us don't notice what we notice. We just go on around thinking our thoughts. But if you were to notice what you notice and notice what's different after watching this video, different for you, without putting filters on it, without saying, well, it couldn't be for that, or, oh, it's not that different, or, oh, come on, that's not, but without the filters, and go, oh yeah, that's different. Oh, he doesn't treat me like that anymore. Man, that's weird. I don't have that funny thing that happens every day. So you might want to notice what's different, and then keep noticing what's different after this video session. And every Friday, I do a video session for you. You can friend me on Facebook. As far as I know, I still can take friends. There's a limit on that. You can find me on email and be on our Thursday list. And I was I'm getting a new computer today. It's Black Friday, so wish me luck. But I got to get a new computer. My camera went out, and this is Jen's computer. And I was cleaning up my computer, and I found an old video of me filming Jen when she had Ben, who's now 7 years old. She had Ben in her belly, and we were in Vancouver. I thought it was like winter time, but it was because the beach was really empty. But she was in her bikini and she was doing a little dance, and we were like, "Oh, look, there she is." At the time, it was like July or no, it was cold. It was probably June or July, but there wasn't anybody on the beach, and she might not have got on the beach with her bikini if it was packed and she had a big belly, but she might have. She looked really good, really cute. But at that time, it had been a couple of months that I wasn't able to run. I starting on this 2-year journey of getting really sick and being unable to run for a couple of years and having to figure a lot of stuff out, and then getting ourselves up to the Pacific Northwest. And through that, I found that there's matrix energetics, but there was also some other stuff that I really had to learn. I kind of seemed to learn it through a lot of crazy experiences, but I learned some ways to get things in life. And what I ended up getting for myself was a way to play with magic, play with this matrix energetics, and also play in the real world in ways that are tangible, in ways that really get you what you want. And so that's my interest right now, is to help people learn to use this matrix energetics, learn to use this magic that's in you, that's in us, but also to not miss anything. Like I missed that almost killed me, literally. And I figured it out, and I got well, and I got my health back, and I got a new life, and doing really cool stuff. And part of it is using this matrix energetics, using this magic. And part of it is using other things, some very specific things that I found. And I want to make sure that you guys get that if you want it. And so if you go to my one of my sites, websites, it's ralphhavens.com. That's www.ralphhavens.com/enlightenup, ENLIGHTENUP. ralphhavens.com/enlightenup. And I've got a PDF and a full hour session for you, where you can get really deep into this this matrix energetics state, and also this other thing that I found that's really, really valuable, so that you can have a tangible result in your life. It's what's worked for me. It's what I do. I just did about 45 minutes of this other thing that's really powerful. So so go grab that and let me know how it feels after today's session. I'm going to send an email out about this one because I missed the Thursday email. Miracle, first time in a long time. And I'd love to hear from you and what you notice with today's session. All right, you guys, go ahead and grab your gift session and PDF from me, ralphhavens.com/enlighten up. All right, bye, you guys.